Good morning, welcome to SlimChat 40 something or other. I want to say 45, but not absolutely sure about that. Probably not. 40 something, you know. Anyway, good morning. It's a lovely windy morning out here in the wilderness. Sea's looking lovely and choppy, which is good. I like a good choppy sea. And although it's nice and cool out there, it's a bit hard to open the windows with the wind. But when it's windy like that, I love to go and have a walk along the sea. I don't know why. It reminds me of when I was a child, because we lived along the next bay when I was young. And, well, it's a big bay, but for one part of that, we lived at one end of it, and then we moved to the other end, but it was still the same bay. And I used to have a German Shepherd back then, and I used to take him for walks along the beach and along the sea defences, because there was when you go from Laysdown to Shellness, it's just a slope, and I used to walk along there and the sea would crash and we'd get wet, but I didn't care. And if it was too bad, I used to walk on the top, and but I'd love it. The wind blowing and the sea crashing. And the dog would jump in, have a little swim, come back. And if it was not too bad, I'd get in with him and have a good swim with him. But he had this awful habit of doing when he did his doggy paddle, he'd scratch me. And I'd have these, with salt getting in the wound as well, I'd have these red raw scratches on my leg, on my stomach or somewhere, where he was clamouring to get to me and play with me, but then scratching me in the process. So, yeah, fun. Never mind. I enjoyed it at the time. But it cleared the air, it cleared your head. That's what I really loved. Walking along there, if you had anything troubling you. But back then, the things that troubled me were pretty, well, look, by these days' standards, insignificant. But, you know, at the time, insurmountable odds. But, you know, it cleared your head. And I loved that. I used to love walking along there. So I do like walking along on a blustery day by the sea. However, Storm Ellie proves to be a little bit more than a blustery day by the sea. So at the moment it's just wind, so it's not too bad. It'll be fine at the moment, but it promises to get worse. I don't know how much worse really. And I never trust the weather forecast when they say. We had once a very famous incident with this weatherman called Michael Fish. And he was like the stalwart weatherman, you know. And he said on the one very famous bulletin, I had a woman write it or ring in or something like that, asking if there's going to be a hurricane. Don't be ridiculous. There's not going to be. Of course there's not. And there was a huge one that ripped, because it was at the wrong time of year for a hurricane. All the trees had leaves on them. And it was October, and they ripped out all of these trees, which then become missiles. You know, it was one of the worst storms we've had at that time because of the trees. And I don't know how many trees were uprooted, but, you know, thousands of them. Roads were blocked, they crashed into houses and buildings. And do you know what? I lived in a little terrace house on a high street at the time, and we had this huge 1930s style bay window. And I can remember looking out that window. Opposite, there was a sapling tree. I mean, I say a sapling. It was still a good 15 foot high, but it wasn't a big, thick tree. It had a trunk about this big, and it wasn't really big. So that was laying horizontal to the to the road, blowing towards my window. Heaven, I couldn't realise, you know, why the hell that wasn't uprooting and heading for me. And I'm lucky it didn't break and just crash towards the house. But the next morning when I woke up, it was because there was masses and masses of paving slabs stacked around the base of this tree. Otherwise, it would have pulled up. And that's the only reason it didn't. So that was lucky. But, you know, there was so much damage. Roofs were damaged, windows, everybody had a lot of damage except us. I went out of my back garden, and it was full of kindling, like little flimsy pieces of wood. And I looked to see what damage it was, and it was my neighbour's fence, two fences away. she hadn't secured it properly, and it was like doing this, and it just broke apart. And so I collected it all up, and right, she popped over the fence. And I went, "Would you like your fence back?" And she just sort of went, "No," but it was completely disintegrated into my garden. And I found a children's wheelbarrow, you know, a toy wheelbarrow, and in my garden. I had no idea where it come from, probably miles, but it was in my garden. So I was the only person that I know that gained gained out of it. And at the time, the boy's dad, I won't say like boy's dad, I like to call him husband, but because he's not anymore, you know, but the boy's dad renewed our guttering, and he had a piece left over about this long, and he put it on the garden table, and it was still there. It hadn't moved. But the only thing I can think of is it had gone, because it was one of those garden tables that had slats, and it had gone down and got wedged in there, and maybe it anchored it down. But it was really strange that everything that in our garden was in its place. In fact, we had extra things, you know, not one bit of damage, not one slate from the roof. Crazy, nothing. And even that tree that promised to come and take me out stayed put. So yeah, I always kind of wary when they say it's not going to be that bad. So yeah, I don't kind of trust them. I just wait and see what happens. Oh, anyway, I digressed quite a bit there, didn't I? So this morning I've got overnight oats. I did make them last night. And I've got caramel, salty caramel flavour, and they are lovely. They might just be caramel actually, not salted, but they're beautiful. And I kind of come across them by a little bit of a mistake, because I usually have strawberry, very stuck in my ways with my overnight oats. I have cherry sometimes, but I prefer strawberry, and I put sweetener in it. It's just beautiful. So you've seen my recipe anyway, as such. You know that it is, but I always warm mine up and I put sweetener in it. It's absolutely yummy to me. So I made those, and one day I ran out of strawberry, and all I had was toffee, and I thought, oh well, I'll just have to put up with toffee today. And when I tasted it, it was like, oh my god, this I could eat this as a dessert. This is lovely. So every now and then I'll have a toffee one, but when I have strawberry, I put blueberries in it. Blueberries are a speed food, so that's good. They give you extra boost to weight loss. But for the last 3 or 4 packs of blueberries, they've all been a little bit sour. I don't know why. They're usually lovely and sweet, but these ones quite sour and bitter. So not really loving the blueberries at the moment. So might have to find something else. We did have raspberries and strawberries in the fridge, and also there's some in the garden that I could go pick and put in there. But today I've got caramel, so I'm not going to do that. And last night it was my turn to kind of cook for today. We were going to have a curry yesterday, but because I let Gary sleep in and everything else, there wasn't really time. He said, got to go work in 4 hours. I said, do you think it takes me 4 hours to make a curry? And he said, oh no, let's just have this today. We'll have the curry tomorrow, because it's diced lamb, and you never know if that's going to be tender or not. So he said, why don't you do it in a slow cooker, and we'll see what it's like. So I was going to do a tutorial on my lamb curry, which you can use chicken or any meat for, but I just happen to love lamb. But I thought, it's different. I'm going to be doing it in a slow cooker. I'm going to hear Gary snoring. I wonder what that noise was. Stop now, he must have turned over. How about that? Anyway, so I did it in a slow cooker, and I thought, well, I won't do a tutorial in case it's completely wrong and it doesn't come out well. So I had it on for about 5 hours last night, and then I turned it off. And this morning I shall put it back on the low and let it. It's quite thick anyway. Good sauce. That's one good way of getting it to thicken. So, and have good sauce. So he's back to the snoring. I hope you can't hear him. It's quite bless him. So yeah, got curry today. I hope it's going to be nice anyway, because I didn't put as much madras in as I normally do, but it tastes good, but it doesn't have a kick. So I might make up a little bit more and put that in, but I don't want to mess too much with the flavour, because it is pretty good as it is. So that's the plan of action for dinner today. And Gary and I, because Victoria my daughter-in-law, when she sat down and she did her meal plans for 2 weeks, I said, you know, I think we don't plan enough. We don't plan it properly. That way we're not having the right amount of speed foods, because we're not planning them in. And when it comes, we're just doing a spur of the moment meal. We're thinking, we'll just have this, and there's no veg involved. I said, so we do need to do what she's done and sit down with a meal plan. So Gary sat down with his meal plan and I sat down with mine, and then we kind of put them aside and mixed them together a bit. So we and he said, oh, we need to put this in there. And I went, yeah, but this is for 2 weeks. We're not going to just repeat this. You know, we're going to make a new one for the next 2 weeks, and we'll put something else in. I said, it's not set in stone. If we get up and we can't have that for whatever reason, we'll change it up a little bit. But see, I'm not one of these planners. You know, I've never been a planner. That's trouble. So maybe I need to change my ways in that respect with a diet, just so that I do factor in the right amount of speed foods and variety. So yeah, I've done that now anyway, begrudgingly. So it's curry day. Well, that's only one meal that we're having together. So later on in the evening, I'll be a bit hungry he'll take food to work that he has at work, and I'll be hungry. So my plan today is for when I get hungry to have egg and bacon. Because Gary can't eat bacon. I've got some in the fridge, and I can make that Slimming World. I can, you know, grill the bacon or dry fry, and I can scramble the eggs in the microwave, so it won't be like a stodgy, greasy breakfast. Or I can even fry them in fry light, so that they do tend to have a bit of a weird vibe when you do that. So remind me of plastic a little bit, the whites. But I can poach them or something, you know, do something with them that doesn't mean I have to fry them. And then I can have egg and bacon. I've got lots of things like mushrooms, and so that's on my list for this evening when Gary's at work and having whatever it is he's taking. He's running out of ideas for his work food, which is depressing a little bit. And plus we haven't been shopping yet, which is another thing, you know, with our list. We need to make sure when we do go shopping that we get everything we need, because I said to him, it's no good saying we're going to have shepherd's pie on this day and then think you can have a jacket potato 2 days later when I've used all the potatoes on the shepherd's pie. So we need to make sure that we're, you know, before we go shopping, that we're putting the right things in the right order. It's a lot to it, you know. It's like you've got to use your brain and everything. So anyway, I made my pie. Didn't make a pie. What are you talking about? I made my apple cake yesterday, and I had a bit of a disaster. What happened was Gary's mum Joyce had lots and lots of cake tins, and I did tell him I want to keep them, and I sorted them all out and I put them all in one particular cupboard. I brought a couple from my house that were mine, and I put them all in there, and I also had a new heart-shaped tin, which I made my flapjacks in. They're on Crochet Rocks if you want to learn how to make them. They're not slimming, but they are lovely. So they were called date squares anyway, not flapjacks, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so this heart-shaped tin was the only one that was the right kind of size to make the cake. So I cut out a bottom liner and I greased it and everything, and I poured my batter mix in, only to have it start leaking out the sides. And I thought, how can you cook a cake in a tin that leaks like a sieve? And there's no way of, because it was one of those that you know, spring load, and it was on tight, so I just couldn't for the life of me understand how it was doing that. So I threw it away. Not the cake, I put it in another tin, but the tin was too big, and then obviously some had got wasted because it had leaked, so it actually only made a cake this thick. But it just looked, when I cut them, it looked like those little cake bars. Tastes amazing, but it's not what I was going to make. So I will do it again. I wanted to you know, make it and get au fait with doing it before I did the tutorial. But before I do it as a tutorial, I need to get a new cake tin that's smaller. I've got smaller ones, but they are brownie tins, and I thought if this rises, because it's made with self-raising, not a very much self-raising, I grant you, but it's in there, so if it raises, you know, it'll spill over. But in truth, it probably wouldn't have, by the time with the mixture I had left, I could have gone for one of the smaller ones, and maybe I should, but next time I will make it properly. I'll get a new tin, a proper size, and give it another go and maybe do a tutorial. So that's 2 that I owe you, a curry and an apple cake. I will do them. Anyway, I am melting now. It's really hot in here for some reason. I think it's because when it's me, I sit here and I get hot, and this room has no air. I could possibly try and open this window. It's on the side of the property, so it might not, the wind might not be a factor. Don't want to risk it though, not with my yarn in the back, so I might leave it, just get a fan. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay safe, take care, and I will be with you again tomorrow for SlimChat, and watch out for those tutorials when I eventually get them done. Bye for now, take care everyone.